Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Made it to the weekend, and we made it through yet another Seahawks training camp session, and we continue to learn a lot. So, there's quite a few things to go into here. First, let's start at the top here. Pete Carroll was back. Pete Carroll had been absent for a few days, but he has rejoined, gotten past his bout with COVID. So that's obviously good news. Also returning was Ugo Amadi. He hadn't been seen on the practice field in a couple days. And D. Eskridge starting to get ramped up a little bit here. Not a full practice or anything like that. And there was some indication that he's probably going to miss the first preseason game. But we are headed in a good direction with him at least. And I'll say it before I'll say it again, he wasn't the one who decided to draft himself where he was drafted. So part of me does kind of feel bad for him. Part of me feels bad for him for having to go through all this stuff and being held to this standard. So I'm hoping that things go well for Eskridge from this point forward and we can move past these initial problems. All right, so that deals with the players that we saw returning to on-field action. There were some guys who were absent. Quandre Diggs took a rest day. Sidney Jones looks like he may have some kind of concussion, which that's that's not good. We definitely don't need to hear that. And Jordan Brooks is dealing with a slight hamstring issue that I believe kept him off the field yesterday. So a couple of things to be concerned about. This is obviously a huge year for Brooks. So him being hampered at all is not encouraging. But they did say slight hamstring issue, so if slight means slight, then we're probably good. That's about it in terms of who was actually present. But now let's talk about some of the things that happened out there on the field. There's quite a bit to talk about, but I think my favorite thing, the most interesting thing to me that came out of training camp yesterday was what's going on at right tackle. You've got Abraham Lucas, who finally got a little bit of work with the starting offensive line at right tackle. And according to Carroll, there's going to be a competition for that position with him, Curhan, and I'm not crazy about this one, Stone Forsyth. But if Stone Forsyth is a pure left tackle like I suspect he is, you would expect him to lose the competition. So that's whatever. So after waiting for Lucas to look like he was really going to get his chance, it looks like it's come finally. He's getting a chance to run with the ones. And I continue to be quite high on Abe Lucas's ceiling with this team as a right tackle. So I like hearing the fact that he's going to get a chance now to show that he may be better than Curhan. And Curhan has continued to impress, but I don't want to completely forget about the fact that Lucas tested much better and was a third-round pick, whereas Curhan was undrafted. That stuff happens for a reason. Sometimes it doesn't happen for a good reason, but a lot of the times it does. So really hoping that Abe Lucas can assert himself here because I'm a big fan of his, despite him playing for the Cougars. So that's my number one. Other things of note is that with Quandre Diggs being out, Josh Jones is actually playing starting safety right now. So he seems to be grasping on to something on that defense. I don't know if it's going to be enough to get him playing time, but it feels like he's earning himself a roster spot. And with Ryan Neal out and with Quandre Diggs taking a rest day, you kind of start to learn who they view as the next man up in some of these positions. Josh Jones is starting to assert himself as one of the next men up. Also, with Sidney Jones out, you saw more of Tariq Woolen. You saw Artie Burns. He was back after taking a rest day. A little bit of Michael Jackson, who played well in very limited time last year. So the theme of this training camp in the positive column seems to be cornerback depth. We've got a lot of it. We've got a lot of good things happening at the cornerback position. We've already talked about Kobe. We've talked about Sidney. We've talked about Burns. But it's all going pretty well at that position, which you would kind of expect. But to see it happening out there on a football field, there was even a play or I think a couple plays where people noticed that Kobe Bryant was holding his own against Tyler Lockett, a veteran wide receiver. Not probably not a top 5 receiver in the NFL, but maybe he's top 10, top 15, I don't know. And Kobe is hanging with him, so impressive stuff from almost all those guys. As for the ongoing quarterback conundrum, this is probably the most interesting thing to a lot of people. Unfortunately, we're not getting a ton of clarity. Drew Lock did get a little bit of work with the ones, and Geno got a little bit of work with the twos, but we're talking about a couple of snaps. So we still haven't seen Drew Lock really get that chance to show, hey, I'm better than Geno. I think I'm a better player than Geno, and I'm going to prove it. I don't think it can truly happen until he gets an extended chance with the ones. He got a couple. Hopefully, going forward, he's going to get a few more. Generally speaking, the offense was a little messy. There were a lot of false starts in the 11-on-11 parts, so still murky there. But we're going to continue to hang our hat on the defense around here because it's mostly the defense that is impressing so far in camp. I think that's kind of common for training camps. I think that defenses are usually ahead of offenses, but one thing, or well, a couple of things I want to talk about on offense that are standing out a little bit, even though the offense in general is not playing great, would be Damien Lewis. He seems to be playing better than he was last year. He seems to be playing like he was his rookie year. Now, I and many, many others, pretty much everybody who's into this stuff, have wondered why in the world we're putting Damien Lewis at left guard when he was below average at left guard last year and was good at right guard the previous year. And I know the answer. I know the answer is because left guards are more valuable. Right guards, they're all over the place, but left guards are actually hard to find. If Damien Lewis ends up being a quality left guard, he adds way more value to your offense there. So there were some encouraging things said about Damien Lewis's play at camp yesterday, so it's worth monitoring. I continue to believe that it's in order for Damien Lewis to be the best version of himself, he should go to his best position. But if this gamble does pay off, and it certainly didn't pay off last year, but if it does pay off going forward, that is a more valuable player that we have. So it looks like Damien Lewis is going to be left guard this year. It just does. So if he can actually play well, that's a gamble that could pay significant dividends. And I continue to believe that it's unlikely to pay dividends, but he'll get a chance to prove it. I mean, look, last year, his first year in the NFL playing left guard, maybe you should expect some problems. So we're taking a risk here. If it doesn't pay off, maybe we end up losing our quality young right guard. But if it does pay off, we gain a quality young left guard and just have to replace the right guard, which is pretty easy. So the fact that a few people have pointed out that Damien Lewis looks improved this year has caught my attention. I'll leave it at that. Colby Parkinson was also somebody who looks like he might be ready to take a step forward, which, hey, it's getting to a do or die territory for Colby. He probably won't be here next year if he doesn't do something notable. He's still the third tight end on the depth chart, and that's going to be hard to be moved off of, but he definitely could add value to a team with his size and red zone ability. Those are the main things that caught my attention on the offense. There was a little bit of stuff going on with like 2 running back backfields that I liked, but it's mostly on the defense. Cody Barton continues to play really well in coverage. That is where Cody Barton can improve on things from last year. Last year, Wagner, not good in coverage. Brooks, really not good in coverage. If Cody Barton can be the interior defensive linebacker starter and play really well in coverage, which theoretically he can do, and he has shown at times that he can do it, then that's pretty big. That's how he can assert himself as worthy of playing time. So that's always good to see. That's always good to hear. But I think of all the things that happened defensively at training camp yesterday, my favorite concerned Boye Mafe. Now, you guys know Boye Mafe was one of my favorite players last year in the draft. I was thrilled to get him. Even with that, I've definitely tried to curb people's enthusiasm on him being a monster as a rookie because he is raw. He does need some work. I don't think he's going to be lighting the world on fire as a rookie. And so far in training camp, I hadn't really heard much about him. Yesterday, we heard stuff about him. He blew up some plays in the backfield. He made the right read on some play fakes. And he got a couple of what would have been sacks. They're not actually sacks because it's training camp, but he made some good plays as a pass rusher and a run stuffer. And one thing that Carroll said about Mafe is that this first year, they're going to keep it very simple for him, which is a great idea. Just let him use his speed to get to the quarterback. Things like coverage, things like making reads, that stuff, they're going to not ask of him immediately, which is awesome, and I hope we hold to that. That's a great way to let him show what he can do, let him provide value, but not get put in a situation where he's not going to be able to excel. So that has to do with pass rush. And also, another thing that caught my attention, Alton Robinson has supposedly lost 15 pounds and has been showing that it's helped him in his play. And that's a big deal because if he's going to be playing an outside linebacker role in this new defense, then his playing weight previously I think was like 265. That's a problem. But if he lost 15 pounds, we're on the right track. So that's exciting. And you start to look at this pass rush core. It starts to come together a little bit better if Alton and Mafe can make contributions. Not superstar stuff, but contributions. It's believable that they can be solid this year. That's it for training camp yesterday. Mostly cool stuff on the defense, but some of this offensive stuff is encouraging as well. There's the mock game today. We'll see what happens there. I will keep my ear to the ground the best that I can. And hope to see you guys later on to discuss it a little bit. But let me know what you guys think about things. And I will see you guys later today. Go Hawks.